say thank you for having us. We're really excited to be here. It's a chance for us to connect with you, the Pasadena community, and especially the community that focuses on tech and engineering, science, math. So we're very excited to be here and talk about the programs. Before we get started, I wanted to introduce a couple of people. This is my colleague, Allison Vai. My colleague.
Not the boss.
Although I learn a lot from her. She handles all of the marketing for the Magnet Schools program in Pasadena Unified. You already met Puri Chalian, who's the Director of Innovative Programs for Pasadena Unified, and who oversees all the work that we do to bring these awesome programs to the students here in the community. We also have Shannon Mumolo, who's the Director of all of the Magnet, or the head of all of the Magnet programs. She oversees all 4 schools. And then we have a couple other representatives from the school. There you go. Carla Castro and Dr. Erica Peters, who are respectively another Magnet coordinator and a STEAM coach at the schools. So I do want to say that what we're here for is to talk about the programs, but I want to just address the tea coffee issue. I feel like
I don't know if you want to go there.
It's all peace. I just feel like maybe at the end of the program we can all come together as tea and coffee drinkers, people of all varieties. It's about working together. That's the goal. We appreciate you giving us the whole time slot, but we are going to keep it a bit short. That brevity is intentional. We don't want to inundate you with edu-speak and bureaucraties. What we would like to do is simply share a bit about our Magnet Schools program and connect with you as potential community partners. We're here to reach out and meet with you, see what you have to offer, see if the programs that we're offering students in the community are things that you might like to contribute to by lending insight, advisory, guidance, all those kinds of things. So, as Mike was saying, my background is in both the arts and education. I worked in theater and the entertainment industry for a number of years, and then I came to education as a teaching artist. I taught theater in middle schools, and then later as a credentialed educator, I taught English at a number of schools in the area, including the LA County High School for the Arts. So I have worked in the arts and education sectors together for a while. Most recently, I joined Pasadena Unified, and I'm really excited to be the Arts School Magnet Coordinator at Eliot Arts Magnet. So that's my background. Allison is, pardon me, I'm losing my train of thought here. Oh, she's the Magnet Grant Coordinator. She's been in this role with Pasadena Unified for 2 years. And she worked on the very same U.S. Department of Education Magnet Grant at another school district in Nashville for 3 years. So she's an expert on marketing these programs and talking about these programs with the community, but really she's also very great at talking about community partnerships. So I'm gonna let you, well, thank you.
I'm not the boss, but I'm the expert.
Yes.
Awesome. So I just wanted to talk very briefly about what the grant is and what it does. So in October of 2014, 4 schools in Pasadena Unified received $7.9 million from the federal government to transform the schools into thematic magnet schools. And what thematic magnet schools are is it brings a theme to the school to attract, hence the magnets, students from across the district and across the county to the schools. It also gives the students there an opportunity to be really excited about learning about the theme, be connected with the theme, and enhance their learning there. So a couple examples, and we'll go into a little bit more detail, is students can build a bridge with an engineer, or how to design, how to isolate bacteria colonies from a scientist. So now the schools have the funding to be innovative and also have the staff so you guys can connect with us.
We reached out to innovate because part of the Magnet Schools challenge is to instill authenticity and integrity in the educational programs that we develop. One of the ways that we do this is by establishing relationships with community arts partners, experts in the fields who can lend guidance and support to our educators and to our building of the programs. For example, the STEM school programs. In the case of Eliot Middle School, this would be partnerships with with organizations like the Pasadena Playhouse, the Music Center, Lineage Dance. They provide field trip opportunities to our students so that they can go and see real live professional grade performances. They provide master classes and workshops in the schools with the students, and they provide professional development training to our academic teachers. So they bring their professional practice in and show academic teachers how they can use those skills and that knowledge in their classrooms. But that's the Eliot Arts Magnet. In the case of the STEM schools, it would be building community partnerships with institutions like Caltech and JPL, tech and business leaders and organizations in the community, and that's why we're here talking to you, because you are those experts. You are those people who are doing current cutting-edge work in technology, in all those fields that our STEM school students are most interested in and that they're focusing in. We're interested in your insight, your advisory guidance, your experience, and frankly anything else you might like to lend as we help instill that authenticity in the programs. What we want to do is align our educational programs with the professional practices in your fields. And so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that expertise and that information that you can lend that would help us make our programs relevant and on point and current with trends that are going on in your fields. Thank you.
And I forgot, sorry, to mention the 4 schools. So the 4 schools are, as Tiffany mentioned, Eliot Arts Magnet, which is a middle school, and then we have Jackson STEM Dual Language Magnet Academy, which is elementary school, and Carla's right back there representing Jackson. And then there's Washington STEM Elementary School and Washington STEAM Magnet Academy, which is a middle school, and Dr. Peters is right back there representing them as well. So. Forgot that in my notes because you guys are a little overwhelming.
Yeah, that's awesome. We love it.
So, back to the regularly scheduled program. We're looking for to connect with local tech and business leaders, which I hear are here. I also had the pleasure of meeting some of you guys before, and you guys are doing some really cool things.
Yeah.
And we really would like the kids to know about that too. So, we want to partner with you guys, start a conversation really is what it's about today. Starting the conversation on how we can connect with you guys to connect with our teachers and connect with our students. And ultimately strengthening our programs at each one of the schools. So, as Tiffany stated, we're reaching out to innovate because we want to establish relationships with community partners. And you all are the key to making learning relevant and fun and different and innovative, just like programming. So these students really need to be exposed to what professionals such as you all do. So I'm sure you guys are all asking, what does a partnership look like?
What does it look like?
Well, let me tell you. I have some notes right here.
Okay.
So very simply, you can volunteer as a guest speaker, and or you could be an expert judge or an audience panel. Each school, which has students, if you guys didn't know that, creates projects which they must present to someone in the professional field, so you all can give them feedback on their project to make it better and relevant.
Yeah, that's you being potentially an authentic audience member or a panelist who gives feedback, to these programs so that the students are connecting their learning to the real world. So that we aren't just operating in isolation in the schools, but actually connecting to the community and to tech and business leaders in the community who can provide feedback that is immediate and relevant to what they're learning.
Perfect, thank you. And so as Tiffany mentioned, and no, you didn't. Tiffany just did. I transferred here from Nashville, and some examples, and they're 5 years plus into their program. So some other innovative partnerships. There is a student-run bank at one of the schools, and Nissan actually came in and helped with. It's this competition called the First Robotics Competition, and they at first started donating parts and ended up mentoring the children on how to build this robot that throws frisbees, and with that partnership, they won first place. So overall, these ideas are born out of collaboration with meetings with people such as Tiffany and Carla and Dr. Peters and Shannon and Huri. And so it's about starting the conversation now. We really want to make these lessons relevant, engaging. That's why we're here. I think we said that a few times. So last on my notes here. Coincidentally, LA Times came out with an article this week about arts partnerships. There's an article over there if you guys want to read it. I can read it out for you. But I just wanted to read a quote that I thought was relevant for everyone. That's why the company became among the first to partner with LA Unified by adopting one of their middle schools. The company has donated and installed lighting and curtains for the school's theater and is now planning on mentoring the students to introduce to their engineers and other employees who support the creative industry. So, in other words, the possibilities are endless. And from a simple visit to an ongoing project, we're just here because we would like your help.
Yeah, and that's really basically it. The reason why this type of partnership and engagement is so essential to our program's success is because it helps us, as I said earlier, bring our schools out of isolation and connect to the community, and that's ultimately what we're looking for. Students, one of the biggest challenges in teaching, at least in the years that I taught, is in showing students that the learning we're providing them with is truly relevant. It's not just me, a school teacher in a classroom in isolation with, they're a captive audience. Who knows if I know what I'm really talking about when you're 11 years old or 12 years old and you haven't been out in the world, you're not sure. And there's just this one voice of authority telling you, well, this is how it is. And then they go out in the world and they experience variety and they see a particular activity done in a different way, and they may think to themselves, well, that's not the way the teacher taught it. And so by connecting to community partners, we're showing real professional practice. And the more community partners we have, the more variety we're able to show our students. Ultimately, that's an important lesson as well, to see that there's more than one way of doing something correctly. We don't want to teach them to memorize, certain points that we're laying out. We want to teach them to look for that variety and to look for patterns and to look for trends and to really build those critical thinking skills. And that can't happen in isolation. It only happens when we're connected to the community and to other people who are doing work in the community. In the case of the Arts Magnet, it's arts professionals generally. And in the case of the STEM schools, it's going to be people like you. People who are working in tech, who are writing software and creating apps and developing programs that, benefit the kinds of things that students are doing, because you're real, and that relevance is what kids need to see. And that's what makes it legitimate, and that's what gets buy-in from students, to really participate and to be actively involved in their own learning, and that's ultimately what we want. So we've brought a whole ton of materials for you to look at, highlighting some of the different schools. So maybe you want to take a look at some of those and see if there's a school, near you that's geographically desirable. That's always nice in LA when you don't have to drive around, LA County. But maybe you live or work near one of our schools. If you see one of the schools that's, offering particular programs that you think you could give some insight or expertise to, we would love to hear from you. As Allison said, some of the partnership opportunities could be things as simple as being a public speaker in the class, coming and talking about what you do. It could be meeting with teachers and lending insight as they try to develop particular lesson plans or programs where you can say, you know what, this is what would be the best way of doing that. This is what I would recommend you try to teach students. And then the teachers can take your knowledge and wrap it into a lesson and present that to the students. It can be being a feedback panelist or just an authentic audience to see the projects and performances and things that they create, because you'll be able to see some of the learning that you may have contributed to, and we'd be grateful for that as well. So we have a lot of materials. Feel free to take them. We're going to stick around afterwards and answer any questions and chat with you one-on-one. But before we do that, we would love to take a few questions from the audience now if you have any. A few, quite a few. And we may rely on some of our colleagues as well to help us answer.
You guys remember the format, behave, comments offline.
That's good.
Good morning, thanks for the information. Do you have an online portal or sign-up area?
Each of the schools has a website, and there is contact information. You can reach out to any of the arts or any of the magnet schools coordinators. So when you go on the website, just look for the coordinator, and that would be the contact person. There's we don't necessarily have portals, like sign-up volunteer portals at each of the websites. Each of the schools does things slightly differently, but there are easy reference points of contact available online.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a question. Actually, for some of the people here who are not familiar with STEM and STEAM programs, could you give us sort of a short brief on what they are, so they'll understand what those are?
That's a great question. I think it was on my notes somewhere too. So STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. STEAM adds the A, which is the arts. So does that answer the question? Thank you. Thanks.
Other questions?
My question is related to the, if you have portals, a portal that people can go on and find out more about it. Do you have a way to let the students list or prioritize projects that they're interested in to push that information out to the community?
We would love to talk with you about developing something like that. That is exactly why we're here. We will in the future when we talk about it. These are the kinds of conversations we want to initiate because the programs are in development. They're already up and running, but they're also in development. And so we are looking to you for that kind of expertise to say, you know what, maybe you want to think about doing this. Maybe this is something that you could consider because it's building those connections. So we hope to in the future, yes.
Over here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here. I'm Brian, and I'm on the advisory staff with your high school's Business and Entrepreneurship Academy.
Awesome.
I have a couple
Thank you.
members here. My question is, what are you doing? I noticed that the 4 schools that are identified are elementary and middle school. What are you guys doing intentionally to make sure that there's a connection from the experiences that they've gotten at that level onto the high schools?
That's a really good question. I can speak more to the arts magnet school, but I think there's probably some, and maybe some of my colleagues can also, correct me or add to this. But we're thinking, as we're building the programs, we are thinking about what is the bridge between where they will leave us at the middle school, at the elementary and middle school level, and go on to the high school level. I know at some of the high schools there are sort of areas of focus, and we would love to connect with you to talk a little bit more about cross-curricular and cross-grade bridging, to make sure that what we're doing in the middle schools leads and funnels into what you're doing in the high schools. The same way that we're trying to build authenticity with the community arts partners, we want to build authenticity so that there's a streamline from elementary to middle to high school in the student experience. If the kids decide that they're really intensely interested and have an aptitude for a particular theme or area, we want to do everything we can to make as smooth and as robust an academic experience for them as we can from K through 12. So that's another part of the conversation that we need to have to make sure that we're in alignment. Yeah, thank you for bringing it up.
I was wondering about connections between different campuses. For example, I'm over here in case you're.
Oh yeah. I'm like, well.
I happen to know quite a few high school students at the moment, and they tend to have a variety of different interests in the person of one individual. So I don't know that there's one campus where they could do everything they might ever want to do in their high school careers. And I know that the schools have focuses, but gosh, wouldn't it be great to do this and that? What's the thought about bridging campuses and opportunities?
That's a really good question. I don't know that that's a conversation we've started to have yet. We're all connected in terms of but
Marie back there is just itching to answer that question. Could you repeat again?
Just to clarify, was the question about our magnet students transferring between magnet campuses where there are themes, or as a general sharing of campus programs for all students in the district?
More general sharing. Maybe after school programs.
we don't currently have that type of a structure set up. However, what you heard about were very specific themes at the 4 magnet schools, but as a general district programming, we have 10 academies. That's what Tiffany was alluding to earlier in our high schools. So no one campus has only one theme at the high schools. There's 3 or 4 different academies at our campuses. So there is voice and choice available for students at the campuses. We don't currently have a structure in place for transferring students between campuses during the school day. And as far as after school, we have a cohesive after school Learns program. It's called Pasadena Learns, where the programs are offered, common programs offered at multiple campuses, so that experience is the same at multiple campuses.
Other questions?
Coffee's good.
Okay, thanks for the talking, a very good one. So I'd like to see, ask you a question is about, because you talk about a lot of things from your own perspective, or maybe from your, as a educator, and how you see the schools going on. Have you ever do any of survey and about the students and their parents and what their most needs in class or out of class? Basically, I want to see is from student perspective or maybe from the parents' perspective, and what they think is the most important things for their kids, either for them to go to the university or maybe they have a very best career. And if you can list about maybe the 3 really important factors, it may be helpful.
Yeah, we think a lot about and solicit a lot of feedback from the students as well as their parents. We have a fairly robust suite of opportunities for parents to engage with the schools through PTA, through volunteerism, through being a classroom aide. We are very encouraging of whole community participation, so we're really looking in our schools to have parent involvement, because that makes the educational experience more robust for the child when they're supported at home and their parent really is able to help them with a hands-on knowledge of what's happening in the classroom. So we're in an ongoing process of soliciting feedback. Credentialed teachers generally, and certainly in PUSD, it's part of our responsibility to base the learning and adjust the learning as needed in a classroom to fit the needs of the student. I mean, if we come in with lesson plans and we're planning to do X, Y, and Z over the course of a day or a week or a unit, and we're seeing that the students aren't understanding a particular concept, or they're not feeling it, you know what I mean? We're constantly in a process of adjusting while we teach to scaffold the learning, to reach the students, to find ways to make it interesting for them. I think it's an interesting question, because I think it speaks to our efforts as educators to transform learning from the old traditional models that maybe many of us experienced, where the teacher was sort of the sage, you know, they say the sage on the stage who just lectured, and kids either got it or they didn't. And we're, you know, over the last couple of decades especially, really working to transform education so that it's more of a collaborative process and it's student-driven, and the teachers create lessons and experiences for the students that are based on their needs, but they encourage the students to be proactive and sort of drive some of their own learning. So we're constantly soliciting that feedback. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question, but you know, we're trying to touch on that. There's a lot of things there, but we look for parent input. We regularly you know, have formative and summative assessments of the students to see how they're doing and what we need to adjust in the classroom. So.
Hi there.
Hi. Thank you.
My name is Liam with ISS Above, and which is a little device you plug into your TV that brings the mission control for the space station. Sorry, sales pitch over. It's in about 50 schools already around the country, and I definitely want to chat with you about having it in Pasadena. But one of the questions I have, I came a few minutes late, so I may have not heard you mention this. Are there organizations represented in the room that you're already working with?
We can name a few.
Would you mind?
Yes, yes, that's right. Well, first, of course, is the Chamber of Commerce.
Paul Little and Amy Full are here. Here representing the Chamber, and they run a fantastic program that teaches financial literacy to our students in middle school levels. So that's an ongoing program right now, and they're here. Who else is? Oh yes, where's Ray? Where's Ray? Mr. Ely from STEAM Coders. He has a huge, robust program that teaches coding to students in PUSD. Who else am I? Who are we? Who else is here? Anyone else?
Has anyone else here worked in I really wanted to just get a sense of
Yeah.
just who here is not
Yeah, we have several teacher colleagues from different schools, and then sort of over here is the contingent of magnet school coordinators and the director of innovative programs and some of the coaches from those schools. So.
And I believe someone asked for an example too. We asked for examples of what other things are we doing. So Caltech comes in and they work with our students. They have a program called Skies that they designed. They use iPads, and I'm probably not the best person to explain that part of it. Carla over there or Dr. Peters can explain Caltech, but I do want to kind of touch on the what we're trying to do with the students is to open their eyes to new things and get them engaged in the learning that they're doing, and that's not by teacher in front of the classroom lecturing and then writing, taking the test. So let me give you a couple examples of some really awesome aha moments that happen with the students. When I first started working, and I'll give first an example of Nashville because I worked at the high school. One of the students came up to me, his name's Jarrell, and he said, "Hi, my name is Jarrell, and I want to play football, and I'm going to get a scholarship, but if that doesn't work out, I might want to do some of this video stuff." Awesome. So 3 years late now it's 5 years later, he has a full scholarship to one of the local colleges, and he is doing their broadcasting for them. He does all of their football broadcasting. The school that I came from was an entertainment magnet, so he was the guy for video broadcasting, and he got so into it, he invited our mayor to the school. He would invite our Jim Cooper, which is the representative of Tennessee, to our school. I mean, that's the kind of energy and fire that we see coming out of these magnet schools. It just gives them an opportunity to be exposed to things that they've never been exposed to before. They don't know what engineers do. They don't know what you guys do. I mean, I know when I was in high school and I went to a public school, I barely talked to an adult. Much less we're able to do the same science experiments that they do at Caltech, and help them and actually have a conversation on what could work and what can't work. That's the kind of stuff that we want you all to do with our students. We want you all to expose them to things that they don't know, that we don't know about it, that our teachers don't know about. To have conversations like that. So thank you for bringing that up, because I do think that's important. That's why we're here.
Next question over here.
Hi, my name is Veronica, and I'm a technology project manager. And at the onset, you mentioned that you guys received a $7.9 million grant from the Fed. And is that earmarked for those 4 schools, or are there other schools that are going to be participating in that? And is your goal basically to take that monies and really harness the, information technology experts only in Pasadena, or is it outside of Pasadena for the interest of those 4 schools?
That is a great question, and I'm going to try to remember each segment of that. So, $7.9 million, yes. I don't know if anyone has received a federal grant before, but it does come with directions, to say the least. So, we wrote into the federal government 4 years ago, made that number up around, and it is specifically for those 4 schools, so only those 4 schools can receive that money. It's $7.9 million over 3 years, so it's divided between the 4 schools for those 3 years. Second part of the question, I forgot.
Do we want to reach out to the community? You'll touch on this too, but ideally, it's nice to partner with organizations that are local. Pasadena has a very robust arts and tech community. Hello. And so, you know, it's nice to be able to connect with people who are right down the street or right next door, or who can stop in. But that's not to say that we're not interested in meeting with or talking to other organizations who can provide, you know, guidance or support or ideas across the distance. It's just sometimes it's nice for students to be able to connect with live people who can be there regularly.
And it's our community. I mean, it's the Pasadena community. And, you know, these students that graduate are going to hopefully be a part of this community.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to start here, and of course expand. And Ellie, I mean, I know that your school partners with the Music Center,
mm-hmm.
which is outside Pasadena. So yes, we are reaching out to companies outside of Pasadena. However, we would really like to start these new partnerships within our own community.
When did the grant officially start? When did the programs actually start for this money?
2013-14 school year.
So it's only going through 2016. So what type of programs do you have in place right now that are running at those 4 schools that are part of this earmarked money?
You mean like who are our partners, or? Yeah. I want to address that in 2 parts. We have a whole list with some of our schools and the materials of who their partners are, but and I can again speak to the Arts Magnet a little more robustly, and you know, my colleagues can speak to the STEM and STEAM schools. We have partnerships with the Pasadena Playhouse, with the Music Center, with Lineage Dance, with the Noise Within, with, you know, the Pasadena Chamber of Commerce, with I don't know, we've got about 20 different partnerships, you know, mostly local organizations. And as I mentioned, they come in and they provide master classes, workshops, and teaching to the students. But one of the big things that we do in the magnet schools is an integration piece. And so it's those professionals' expertise that they teach in professional development to our teachers that helps the teachers integrate those ideas into their core academic curricula. All of our schools, of course, have to teach get to teach the academic subjects, the traditional subjects. But what we're looking to do is create methods of teaching that integrate a thematic focus like the arts or science or technology, so that the kids are looking at their traditional academic subjects through a particular lens. I don't know if that partially answers your question a little bit. So different teachers in different classes may be doing different things. And the other piece I wanted to address is what happens when the magnet grant time period ends. That's another reason why we're reaching out to you. We need to make these community partnerships because we want the programs that we establish to be steady and sustainable even after the grant funding ends. And that's why the partnerships are so important. These programs don't go away, you know, at the end of the 3rd year of the grant. We're putting, just us. But, you know, we're trying to put systems into place, experiences into place that can sustain themselves once the seed money, for lack of a better term, is used up.
Yeah. Over here.
Do you think there's an understanding on the part of the teachers and the teaching community, in math specifically, that there's more to math than just the drive towards learning how to do calculus? You know, there's things like higher geometries, nonlinear kinds of things. There's a huge amount of stuff, you know, logic, connection between math and art, the connection between, you know, math and architecture, connection between math and probability.
Yeah, and that is why a part of the reason that we're here is because we do need your help with our students to give them that exposure, but also the teachers. Our teachers are great at what they do, and they are passionate and they are dedicated. But they don't get to leave the classroom very often. So we need your help to explain that to them, to help them with their lessons that they're teaching, and to make it relevant to what's going on now and what you all are doing every day. So when we're asking for your help, that's for our teachers as well.
We live for that connection. I mean, that's what these programs are about, is about showing the bigger, broader world of possibility in all of these areas of discipline. We would love to talk with you more, and we will be sticking around to answer questions and things, but I think we're going to wrap up the official portion. Thank you so much for having us. It's been lovely. We're really excited to talk to you.